Hello and welcome to this special coverage by EastMojo. My name is Amit Kumar and I am joined by my colleagues Kalyan Dev and senior camera person Mukut Medhi. We bring you this show because over the past week both Kalyan and Mukutda have been on the ground in Churachandpur and they returned to Guwahati only yesterday. So we thought that there were a lot of questions that were being asked of us and a lot of things that we thought we needed clarifications, and we thought that it was just important for us to give to you an honest, unbiased picture of what is happening in Manipur or what has conspired in Manipur in the past week. So we thought that the best way to do this is to do a live show, and during this live show if you are watching this you are free to ask questions, put them in the comment section in the live chat, that is, and we will take them as and when possible. And please maintain civility, please do not use vulgar language. Questions that are asked as questions will be answered in the same manner. So let's not waste any time. I'll start with Kalyan. Kalyan, let's start with the first day itself. Now most people who are watching this are aware that violence started on May 3rd, but you had arrived in Imphal on May 2nd, correct?
Yes.
So could you tell us how Imphal was on May 2nd? Were there any symptoms? Was there anything that indicated what was to happen? And after landing in Imphal, what did you do there and how did you proceed to Churachandpur?
See, it was like any other day. We reached Imphal on the afternoon of May 2nd. We had hired a cab, so the cab was already there at the airport, and it was normal. There were people, a lot of people. In fact, the flight that we boarded was completely full. And so we all deboarded the flight, and as we passed, we then waited for lunch at Lakshmi Kitchen.
Of course,
one of the popular outlets, most popular outlets in Imphal. So after that, you can see the visuals. In fact, so these are the visuals from Churachandpur later in the day.
On May 2nd?
On May 2nd.
So I am just clarifying, these are the visuals that you are seeing on the screen right now. Please note that this was on May 2nd. This was the day before the rally, and as you can see, people are shutting their stores. There is absolutely normal movement of traffic. The vendors are selling vegetables. In one frame I can even see Kalyan loitering around. So as you can see, this is May 2nd, and as you can see, it's absolutely like Churachandpur is. It's a small town, but it's bustling with activity all the time, right?
Yes,
during the normal times, and we can see churches and the traffic and everything is absolutely. This was the evening, I assume.
Yes, yes. So we had reached Churachandpur at around 2:30, right, Mukutda?
Right.
So
yeah.
So and we went to a Hotel Venus. If like everyone,
anybody who's been to Churachandpur
yes,
goes to a Hotel Venus.
Yes. So we went to a hotel, freshened up, and then we thought of like taking a stroll, look around, the city, since it was the first time that we had gone there. We have been to Manipur several times, but we have never been to Churachandpur. Imphal, we have been to Imphal, Thobal, and Imphal East, Imphal West, and other districts as well, but this was our first experience from in Churachandpur. So we thought of just taking a stroll, walk towards some of the marketplaces, but by the time we moved out, it was around 4:30. So like it's a small town, so
exactly. There's only so much activity, but it's pretty bustling.
Exactly, right? And also everything closes down pretty early.
Yeah. Exactly.
So by 7 everything shuts down, and people are back at their homes, with their family members. That's all.
मुकुटदा, आप जब वहाँ पे गए थे तो ये तो एक दिन पहले का जब आप शूट कर रहा था
ना, इसमें एक बात है, तो ये शाम को जब हम लोग खींचा फोटो जो हो रहा था, ये सब दुकानों का ओपन था, हम लोग एक दुकान में जाके चाय और सिंगारा उंगारा खा रहा था। तो भी एक लड़का ने पूछा, वहाँ पर जो काम करता है, हम लोग को पूछा आप लोग कहाँ से आए हैं? तो हम लोग आया ये गुवाहाटी से। तो हम लोग यहाँ पर जो कल रैली है वो कहा हाँ कल रैली है, कल सुबह सब दुकान बंद रहेगा, क्योंकि रैली में भी हम लोग को जाना है। लड़का था क्लास 9 में 10 में पढ़ता है, लड़का बोला हम भी जाएगा वहाँ पर। उसका बाद एक दुकान में हम लोग थोड़ा सामान खरीदा, तो बोला आप लोग मीडिया से? बोले हाँ मीडिया से है, लेकिन यहाँ पर थोड़ा पूरा तैयार रहेगा, क्योंकि थोड़ा इधर कुछ हो सकता है, ऐसा बोला था। लेकिन हम लोग नॉर्मल है,
ये
पूरा
तो,
दुकान उकान खुला है, हम लोग भी बाजार उजार कर रहा है, अच्छा ही लगा है। फिर हम लोग कल रैली तो कवर करना है, रैली कवर करके निकल जाएंगे, वही तो बात था पहले।
So as Mukunda is also saying, there was palpable excitement, or not excitement would not, but everybody knew that tomorrow is a big day.
See, yes,
But-
it is a big day, and
somebody mentioned violence, but it was may have been in passing, and
yes, it was
not
definitely in passing. And like those who have been following all the stories from Manipur, they have known that Churachandpur had experienced violence.
In fact,
just,
yeah, in
just
fact,
recently.
So now I'll just, if I could take a few minutes of the viewers, the reason why we landed, it's not like we knew what was going to follow, right? But people who follow Manipur closely will remember that a few days before May 2nd, towards the last week of I think April 28th or 29th, if I'm not wrong, there was vandalization in Churachandpur where an upcoming function of CM Biren Singh was vandalized, and some of the equipment and some of the installations or whatever you call them, there was an open gym which was supposed to be inaugurated, and these things were vandalized. So May 3rd was not the first day we had seen violence.
Yes, exactly.
Yet what had happened before May 3rd was that you had seen a little bit of resentment, as we have said that time and again in our stories, in every story, that there has been tensions building, and that is one reason why our team had gone there, because we were trying to build our own stories.
Exactly.
Right?
So we were trying to do in-depth stories from Manipur, in fact, and
not just Churachandpur.
exactly. So our whole plan was to go, since there was a rally about to take place. So our plan was to cover the rally, speak to people there, speak to civil society organizations, and then come back to Imphal, talk to representatives of the other communities as well, and
in fact, even possible if needed to travel to the Naga territories. For
exactly,
example,
exactly.
Right?
So that was our whole plan.
Exactly.
So we had gone with a like structure in our mind, like what the thing we had a to-do list in our mind. So what are the things that we'll be doing in the next few days, and so
with that was how May 2nd ended. Right?
Exactly.
So just repeating our viewers, to our viewers, that we had arrived, as I said, a day or two before. Although saying before sounds weird because it's not like we knew what was going to happen. But when we had landed, we had the idea that we will be doing a few long form video stories, whether it is the ongoing NRC debate, whether it is the ST demand, whether it is a host of other issues. And let's be honest, we had covered Manipur extensively during the election. So we also wanted to see what has happened since, like पानी का दो हम लोग जैसे डॉक्यूमेंट्री बनाया था, तो ये भी देखना था कि अब पानी का सिचुएशन ठीक हुआ है कि नहीं, क्योंकि एक साल हो गया इलेक्शन का, एंड वी हैड डन दीज थिंग्स. सो दिस वाज ऑल, वी हैड नो आइडिया ऑफ दैट व्हाट वाज गोइंग टू फॉलो. एंड let's also not forget that our viewers may not, some of our viewers, especially the ones who are not from the region, may not remember, on May 3rd the Vice President of India was visiting Imphal. So this is how calm the situation was. That's why when we landed in Imphal on May 2nd, we had discussed this, that we will land in Imphal and we'll go to Churachandpur, so that the next day we'll get enough video footage from the rally and we can interview stakeholders, whether it is on whatever story that we are doing. Even it is a general issue, NRC, ST, evictions, everything, we will get bites. That's what, as journalists, we look for bites and we look for footage. What are we going to show? So with that in mind, we had gone to Churachandpur a day in advance, so that on the 3rd we will be able to cover the rally extensively, do a few interviews, release them, and then also keep recording so that we have enough material for our long form stories. Then May 3rd happened.
Exactly.
Kalyan.
So yes, since there was a rally about to take place, so our days, see, whenever we move out of Guwahati to cover in story, we begin early. So we were up and we were ready by 8 a.m. The rally was supposed to begin at around 11 a.m. We moved out from our hotel at 8 a.m. and then had our breakfast. I mean, the shops were still open. Most of the shops had opened. So we had our breakfast and then we were at the football ground by 9:30 a.m. Although it was not crowded, but people had started coming in. As the day progressed, so by 10:30 there were enough crowd. There was local media. There was a lot of hustle and bustle going on. You can see the visuals. These are the visuals from the ground, but that was later in the day.
This was not how it began, right?
No. It was the field was completely empty. I was walking across the ground. Mukunda was taking visuals. We were interacting with the local media person, and and since we had come from outside, there were also a lot of locals who approached us. They spoke to us. We interacted and talked about, they were asking, how is our stay there? Are we enjoying our stay? So that is how the day began. In fact,
in Northeast, all the people we interview also interview us, right?
Exactly.
Like they always ask us questions, so that's normal. And as Mukunda was mentioning earlier, उस टाइम पे तो आप बी रोल का बी रोल बना रहा था कि मतलब देखो अभी धीरे धीरे लोग आ रहे हैं.
ऐसा हुआ, हम लोग 11 बजे पहुंच गया. पहुंचने के बाद मैं बोला, कल्याण को बोला यहाँ पर कितना बजे आएगा, थोड़ा रैली, पीस रैली होगा, ये कुछ नहीं है. मैं खुशी से पूरा ऐसा करके पूरा वीडियो कर गया, गाड़ी में चढ़ के किया, बिल्डिंग में चढ़ के किया, सब जगह से मैं वीडियो लिया, रोड पे किया, एक गाड़ी में था, गाड़ी का भी शॉट लिया, पूरा पीसफुल, कोई कुछ नहीं है. तब तक कुछ नहीं है. उसका बाद खत्म होने के बाद हम लोग को
बिफोर sorry to interrupt you. So by 11 a.m. enough crowd had gathered there.
Exactly.
But we did not have idea about the the degree, the kind of people who have gathered. We could see only the crowd in the ground. But
very surprised, just interrupting it. Within this, that it's not a stadium, it's a ground.
It's a football
ground.
Like mini stadium.
You call it a stadium, but yeah, you know what I mean.
Yes.
It's not
a stadium, but yeah.
But were you at that time very surprised at how many people were in that small stadium itself?
Exactly, that's what I'm getting to. See, when we were at the ground, there were hardly around close to 10,000 people. We could see 10,000 people. So by around between 12 to 12:30, the crowd then moved out of the ground for the march that will continue on Terim Road and will end at the mini secretariat, which also has the deputy commissioner's office. So we were on the front of the rally at the where the on the front of the whole march. We had boarded a vehicle there, and then we saw when we came out on the main street on the highway, the Terim Road, which is also one of the important link roads between from Manipur to Mizoram. So when we came out on the main road, that is when we realized the number of people who had gathered there. It was, I think it will be fair to we can say that it was close to 50,000 people.
So 5 times the number of people in the stadium were outside.
Yes.
मतलब मुंडी इधर निकलते हैं तो टेल देखने के लिए आपको बहुत समय रुकना पड़ेगा.
So since
ऐसा बात है, मुंडी इधर आ गया तो हम लोग के सामने, तो मैं गाड़ी पे था, तो मुंडी इधर में है, तेल देखने के लिए आपको बहुत घंटा रुकना पड़ेगा.
वो चलता शुरू हुआ तो चलता
ऐसा क्राउड है, बीच में गाड़ी भी था.
And like it was a diverse crowd. There were a lot of women, there were a lot of students, in fact, students. Like Mukunda mentioned, we interacted with the student who also, whose family also runs an eatery in Churachandpur. So there were a lot of students from different schools, a lot of elders, in fact, elderly people had also come there, different civil society organizations, a lot of youth, of course. So, but yes, when we got onto the street, we were ahead of the rally, but we could not see where it ends.
Exactly.
Like कहते ना जहाँ तक देखो वहीं तक
जहाँ तक आँख जाए वहाँ तक. So and I remember because I mean, while these two were there, our editorial team was in Guwahati. So it was around, I think the first video started emerging around 2ish that we had and we were doing, as I said, we were doing what we had meant to do. We interviewed the leaders over there, we asked them a range of questions. All these interviews are available on our link on our YouTube channel,
and in fact the links to them are also in the description.
So we interviewed a lot of people. Some were talking about the NRC demand, some were talking about the ST demand, some were explaining in great detail as to why they are opposing the demands. And we are nobody to say whether their reasoning is correct or somebody else's reasoning is correct. ये हम लोग का काम नहीं. हम लोग का काम था कि जो हो रहा है वो दिखाने का. Mukunda was recording, Kalyan was doing the interviews, he did his P2Cs, he submitted everything, we were releasing. In Guwahati, I think it was around between 4 and 6 p.m. that we started realizing what was happening, because all of a sudden my phone went off. My phone just I started getting alerts of violence here, violence there, violence here, violence there. Then somebody told us that there has been violence reported from Torbung, and we are sitting here, and by evening of course the violence got so bad that a city which was having the hosting the vice president till 2 in the afternoon switched off its internet by 5, and all of a sudden no mobile internet, and that's when you realize ki, okay, something bad is happening.
Exactly.
And by evening the first major visuals from Churachandpur that emerged. Kalyan,
So,
could you
let me just clarify here. There were also a lot of reports, like I have been asked this question by a lot of people from Imphal, from outside Manipur, even from Delhi and other states as well. When did the violence happen? What happened?
There's
So-
no specific time.
Yes.
Like
So, I am just going to say what I saw there. So, the first report started coming in at around 2:30.
in Churachandpur.
Yes, in Churachandpur. Soon after, the rally had ended at the mini secretariat, where several, in fact, more than 8 civil society organizations had submitted a memorandum to the deputy commissioner, who also spoke to us after the rally, and also mentioned, urged the people to maintain peace and calm across the state.
So, just to clarify, at 2 o'clock when the memorandum was submitted,
Around 2:30.
at
yes.
that time everything was peaceful.
Everything was peaceful. So, the memorandum was submitted. We and some of other locals and local reporters there, we were talking about how surprised I was to see about the number of people that had come in. That is when we start getting news of arson taking place at the centenary. That there were attempts made by miscreants to burn the centenary down. However, it is not possible to burn that centenary completely down, because it's made of concrete and iron, metal. But there were attempts made, and we got a visual of an altercation.
This is the Anglo-Kuki.
Yes, the
installation.
1917
17.
Kuki War centenary. So, that is the first visual that we got, an altercation of a woman, not altercation, I would say, a woman demanding to find the miscreants who had attempted to burn down the centenary.
So, this is and just to recap, this is around
Between 2:30. So, yes, this is the visual that you can see that we got at around between 2:30 to 3 p.m. However, since the situation was still normal back then, by that time, so we decided, I think mentioning of any kind of arson or anything would escalate the situation. So, we decided not to discuss this further. We just talked about it among ourselves, and we hope that the situation will come back to normal. The miscreants, since police had already there, so let them do their job.
exactly.
And then we'll get in touch with the police, and we'll find out about the developments that had taken place after that. So, after that we moved on to
Just sorry to interrupt, Kalyan. This memorable this Anglo-Kuki War centenary celebration. How far was it from the place you were reporting? Could you
So,
give us an idea of
when we heard about the news, we did not know about the distance, since we did not know about the centenary back then. But yes, it's not very far from the DC's office.
So,
It was probably around a couple of kilometers.
2 किलोमीटर के पास था.
2-3 किलोमीटर. हाँ, 2-3 किलोमीटर होगा.
DC
ऐसे.
ऑफिस है.
हाँ, DC ऑफिस है.
मतलब चूराचांदपुर टाउन में ही है.
जो टाउन में है. हाँ, जब एंटर
So
करता है ना
it's- yes.
चूराचांदपुर
हाँ, ठीक,
तभी
अच्छा.
है.
At the entrance of Churachandpur,
इम्फाल से
Lamka,
जाता है
in fact.
तो घुसते समय ये दिखाई
दिखाई
देता है.
देता है. ज़्यादा दूर नहीं है. 2 गेट है.
अच्छा.
वो एक गेट है और दूसरा में है
हाँ.
वेलकम टू चूराचांदपुर लिखा हुआ है. 2
ठीक,
गेट है.
ठीक.
So, this is the first visual that we got. After that, we returned to our hotel, since we had done a lot. So, after that, we went on to do more interviews of some of the civil society groups, leaders that
Yeah.
we
KSO.
met during the KSO and other groups we met. So, and there were also a lot of senior leaders. So, we tried to get a better perspective of the whole situation, what the protest was about. So, we went on to do the interviews, and then came back to our hotel to send over whatever videos and interviews we had shot during the day, over the day. So yes, but I think it was at around 4, between 4 and 4:30. So that is when we start getting reports of violence taking place in the
Yes.
border areas of Churachandpur and Bishnupur.
Yes.
But we could not confirm anything, since most of them were WhatsApp forwards and what what has been passed over from one person to another.
Yeah, because as I said, this was also the time when we started. That was, if I may, and this might upset some people, this was also the first time we heard of rape reports, for example.
Okay.
And we were here in Guwahati. My reporter has not given me any such indication. I'm talking to my people in Imphal also, and that's when you realize that this was not going to get over in an hour or so. This was so. Let's just also recap. See, every time there are big rallies or protests and all, it is very common कि जाते टाइम कोई इधर कुछ कर दिया, कोई उधर कुछ कर दिया, ये सब होता है.
But
We have noticed it.
for sure say that there was no report of any kind of activity that can disturb the whole situation. There were,
Exactly.
and the first thing that backs my words is that there were a lot of students involved, school students, school going students, kids in fact, of
Kids,
8 and 9 and 10 standard. So I don't think people will knowingly would do any such thing, and a lot of youths as well.
And that's where it became, because from what we were getting in Guwahati, the reports was that the violence started when a lot of people who had come to Churachandpur town to attend the rally started going back.
Okay.
Not of course, it's, I mean, I'm pretty sure that most of you know this, but the 50,000 people who came to the rally, all of them were not from Churachandpur, right?
No.
A lot of people had come together, and that is how a rally takes place. So, for example, when a Modi rally takes place in, say, Guwahati, a lot of people will come from all the way from Kokrajhar also and Jorhat also. So people come. That's how a rally takes place. That's how organizations do it. कि लोगों को लेके आओ, जमा करो, हम लोग को अपना बात सामने रखना है. तो that's where we started hearing that a lot of people, while going back, returning, that's where we started hearing that a lot of people there are a lot of blockades on the road. People are not going. There's violence. Somebody is being stopped. Somebody is being done this, that. And amidst all of that, and you can see these are the footage of the.
You can see Mukutda, in fact.
Exactly.
That was at the initial part of the rally. So we were on a vehicle, me, Mukutda, and other journalists. There were a few other journalists and locals as well. So this is how the rally was going on.
Exactly. So, but I think we have already established that there was no law and order situation till the rally got over.
Yes.
In fact, the rally got over in the most honest, simple way, which
Exactly.
most direct way,
You
not
can see
honest
them
or something,
smiling
but
and
yeah, most direct way, which was to submit a memorandum to the DC.
And a lot of people had also gathered on the rooftops and the
Exactly,
balconies to witness the rally. All of them were taking videos, and like we had gotten off the vehicle, and then we tried to get to the end of the rally, how it was. So we also did a couple of PTCs on road when the crowd was passing across, and there was, I can confirm that there was no report of vandalism or anything done.
At least in this area, we are talking about what we saw, and the reason that the places that we were seeing, there was no violence, there was no vandalization.
No.
And at least till the time the rally got over, the city was absolutely as calm.
Yes.
It was closed down, of course, but that was the call, and the city was.
But I think after the end of the rally, shops had started opening.
Started opening, in
Yes.
fact, right? Yeah. So Kalyan, if I could just get into now the next phase, because this was when what we can call a trickle of violence turned into a tsunami
Exactly.
that we are witnessing now, or we have witnessed in the past few days. Take us through, say, between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. that you witnessed, and how a seemingly normal situation, a bit on the edge, but mostly in control, how did that go from people marching and laughing and celebrating to gas cylinders going off and homes being burnt into absolute infernos going on? Explain that to us, that part of the.
So that is when things started escalating. So people were getting WhatsApp forwards of shots being fired, people being injured because of gunshot wounds, and all of that was happening at the border areas of Churachandpur and Bishnupur.
Just to add one thing, if possible, from the place you were in Churachandpur, how far would the Bishnupur border be?
Approximately around 30 kilometers.
30 kilometers. Okay.
So, and we decided to refrain from reporting on all that, since we had not experienced, we had not witnessed any such thing, and most of them were sent on WhatsApp.
Exactly.
We cannot, as journalists, we cannot rely on WhatsApp forwards, of course. I tried to get in touch with some of the locals in Bishnupur, but we could not make contact with them. So I could not confirm anything. But yes, as the day progressed, by evening the situation had escalated. We started getting, now by I think by 5:36, between 5:36 p.m.
शॉर्ट आउट दैट पूरा
हाँ,
6 बजे 6 बजे में हमको, मैं ऊपर में था, ये पूरा न्यूज़ वीडियो भेज रहा है, तो 6 बजे इसने बोला मुकुंदा उधर पर वायलेंस जाएगा क्या? हमने हाँ जरूर जाएगा। चलो कहाँ पर? बोले बिष्णुपुर, और बिष्णुपुर पर जाना पड़ा। मतलब बिष्णुपुर तो यहाँ तो बहुत काफ़ी दूर है, चलो निकलते हैं। बस हम लोग गाड़ी के बिना सिक्योरिटी से हम लोग ड्राइवर को लिया, गाड़ी भी हम लोग का मणिपुर का रजिस्ट्रेशन था, तो हम दोनों इम्फाल रजिस्ट्रेशन था, दोनों हम लोग दोनों चलो जाएंगे। हम क्या है, सुबह पीस प्रोसेस है, क्या वायलेंस है, हमको ऐसा कुछ नहीं लगा जो इतना भयानक होगा। उसके बाद गाड़ी का एक जगह में देखा है जब सिलेंडर खाली डुम डुम यही सुनाई दिया। हम सोचा कि वहाँ पर टीयर गैस छोड़ा है, लेकिन सिलेंडर ब्लास्ट हुआ था। आग फैल जाता है ना, पूरा बड़ा बड़ा फैल जाता है। तो उसका बाद
ये वाला this point that you where you did that video where the houses were on fire, by that time it must have become clear that it was not just
Exactly.
like a small case of vandalism or like people
so
fighting.
what we saw was, actually it was terrifying.
These are
villages,
the visuals on the
yes.
screen. Yeah. It's an entire village. I mean, a hamlet.
Not just one, I think a couple of villages.
Exactly.
So we
cluster
could,
of homes. Yeah.
we could only go to one of the villages that was right beside the highway, Bangla village, as per what the locals told me the name is. So these are, they were like some, we took most of the shots from our vehicle.
These are markets, right? These are clear.
Yes,
this is very characteristic of a market space,
Exactly.
like where you set up
Market
your hard
spaces,
bazaar and all
some,
that kind
I
of
think
stuff. Yeah.
some of them had something to do with transport, because there were a couple of trucks as well. A lot of homes were burned down. All we could see was fire and red. The sky had turned red by then. So these are the visuals from between 7 to 7:30.
Exactly, yeah, because we received the video the same night, correct? And that's when it also, I think this was the first video in,
Yes.
in terms of the violence that has followed this. This was the first video that gave us an idea of what
Yes,
exactly
the first
had
video
happened.
of arson that took place. In fact, we spoke to locals, but no one could confirm anything. Who did this? Why did they do it? But yes, there were mentions of communities being involved. But since we did not have any official statement, we just did a ground report on that houses have been burned down and what area, the degree of violence, but here too we did not get any report of any person being injured. All we could see and
destruction
of
no,
property.
but at that time we did not have any information on injuries or deaths.
No,
and by that,
and
what
there was no one to confirm that.
Exactly. By when we say that we had no reports, we mean we had no consolidated, confirmed or verified reports. We were not going by what, because according to WhatsApp on May 3rd itself 100 people had been dead. So I am not saying that that was not the case or there was no violence, but we were going by what we could vouch for. Kalyan was on the ground, so this was the first, pretty much the first video of violence related that we released, and this shows you the extent of violence that. So as Kalyan said, it was mostly it was completely peaceful till the time the memorandum was submitted. In fact, in evening it was relatively peaceful to that extent that a reporter and both of them actually went back to their hotel to sit down and hoping that okay, now we'll start sending whatever footage we have. But what followed is in front of you on your screen right now.
So yeah, these are the visuals from Bangla village, which is after this is actually if we travel from Churachandpur to Bishnupur, so this comes after after a couple of around 2-3 kilometers after crossing the DC Deputy Commissioner's office.
So these are very close to offices.
Yes, in fact, not very far. Yes,
relatively
yes,
close.
yes, yes.
Relatively.
So it took us around Mukunda, I think half an hour to
half an hour
from our hotel to reach that spot. But since there was no signboard or any milestone, we could not confirm. All we had was locals we could only ask locals,
So
about
just
the locality.
I see people around in the video, so I can see like say heads or people around. So when this was happening, there were still people, civilians around the.
Yes, from
Yeah,
people who are from around the locality.
मुकुट ये सब जो वीडियो विजुअल जो आप रिकॉर्ड कर रहा था, तो उस टाइम पे लोग जो आसपास में भी तो था ना, काफी लोग
था।
तो इन लोग का ही घर था क्या?
इन लोग का ही घर था ना, किसका घर था मालूम नहीं, रात को पता नहीं चलता था। काला शर्ट पहन के काला वो लगा के आया था, कौन क्या है हम लोग को क्या पता। तो हम लोग खाली देखा
ये जो विजुअल था ये सब उसी रास्ते में जा रहा था,
आसपास का रास्ते में ये लोग ही आ रहा है, क्योंकि लाइट का सामने से थोड़ा थोड़ा दिखाई दे रहा, अंधेरा था ना, खाली लाइट जल रहा था, हम लोग का गाड़ी का लाइट से ये सब लिया है। लेकिन हमको क्या मालूम ऐसा कोई क्या कर रहा है, कौन है लोग, क्यों कर रहे हैं, हमको क्या पता।
So just one thing, Kalyan, at this time the violence was outside the city of Churachandpur, right? There was no violence reported in Churachandpur, was it?
No, this was outside the town.
Outside the Churachandpur. Okay. This was outside. शहर से बाहर था।
बाहर था, काफी बाहर था।
तो when you recorded this, at that time did you reach out to officials like the DC that you had spoken to, or any police inspector or anything? What happened?
Okay, so
what happened after this?
So after that we looked around. There was no sign of any kind of security or police official being in approaching towards the ground. In fact, the no fire tender trucks had gone there when we were there. So we were after recording these visuals, we were going back to our hotel, but it was completely dark, and we could not even spot the deputy commissioner's office while on our way back, and it seems like everything had shut down.
Was there electricity?
Electricity was there in some localities, but towards in the town there was electricity, but around
these areas, of course, there must have not been any electricity. So yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So we had entered the town, and that is when soon after we entered the town, so the roads were blocked. So the tires were burned, the roads were barricaded, and like people started approaching us. Who are you? I think probably because the vehicle had an Imphal registration number, they came to us. Some of them were furious. I don't know for what reason. Maybe because of all the WhatsApp forwards and fake news that was doing the rounds. So we tried to calm them down and told them that we are journalists from Guwahati, and they understood. They recognized us, our channel, and they let us pass through. We went back to the hotel and just waited it out to the situation. I think we were hoping that the situation would get back to normal by morning. We were only hoping that the security forces would get involved and try to stop what's happening.
Which brings me to 4th, because I think as of now we can say 4th was the most 4th and 5th, but May 4th also, because the way violence spread across the state. By 4th it was also clear that Imphal was also engulfed in the violence.
Exactly.
मुकुट दा आपसे पहले पूछेगा, 4 को आप जब सवेरे निकला तो सवेरे सवेरे आपका विजुअल्स जो आप रिकॉर्ड कर रहा था, ये जो देख रहा विजुअल रिकॉर्ड करने से पहले भी जो आप देख रहा था, उस टाइम पे आपको होटल के बाहर क्या दिख रहा था? लोग दिख रहा था या पूरा स्ट्रीट सब खाली था? पुलिस था? पुलिस तो था नहीं।
हाँ नहीं, 4 को हम लोग जब हम सुबह निकला, जब आग उग लग गया था, सुबह जो हम निकल के रोड पे आया, देखा कि दूर दूर में जो जल रहा था वो खाली धुआं ही धुआं था।
तो आग बुझ गया था।
शहर में भी धुआं, बिल्डिंग का बीच में जो धुआं निकल रहा है, उधर से भी धुआं निकल रहा है, हम खाली धुआं कवर कर रहे हैं। देखो आग अभी भी जल रहा है। आदमी नॉर्मल 2-1 आदमी आ रहा है जा रहा है पूरा नॉर्मल, लेकिन आग धुआं हो रहा था, आग खाली आग ही आग था।
ये 4 तारीख का फुटेज है। Can we confirm if this is 4th or is it? I think
4 तारीख का फुटेज है।
These are from.
So on this itself you can see that, I mean, by this time the army had not come in, but this was the additional forces that had been deployed.
No, these are not the additional forces, these are the existing forces. So there's a BSF camp right near the mini secretariat.
Okay.
So I think since the additional forces had not arrived, so these are the BSF officials who had come out in the streets. They were trying to clear the area, clear the road blockades, and at least try to maintain law and order situation.
And
there.
as you can see here also, there's like one shop open, for example.
Yes, exactly.
And there's another, like people were still coming out of the street. You saw a person on a bicycle. So on 4th also, it seemed like the city was trying to limp back to normalcy. तो ये वाला फुटेज जब आप लोग रिकॉर्ड किया, आप लोग होटल से निकला, इस टाइम पे तो पता चल गया सब कुछ बंद है, और ये जो आप बोल रहे थे कि धुआं धुआं सब जगह हो रहा था, तो
ये सुबह का है।
हाँ, ये सुबह का है ना, 4 तारीख को सुबह को।
जब 3 तारीख को रात को जला था ना,
हाँ,
तो सुबह ये सब देखिए दुकान शॉप सब जल रहा है, इसमें बाइक भी दिखेगा,
वो आप देख रहे हैं, धुआं जो
ये
अभी
देखिए
निकल रहा है,
बाइक
धुआं
का
जो
पूरा
निकल रहा है।
स्कूटी बाइक जला दिया पूरा,
और
ये बीच में सिलेंडर भी है, बीच में सिलेंडर,
दिस इज द सिलेंडर दैट यू वर टॉकिंग अबाउट,
लेकर एक सिलेंडर ब्लास्ट करा दिया, ऐसा सब सिचुएशन था। ये देखिए आदमी को देखिए आग लगा के रुका है,
ये तो गलियों का है ना,
हाँ, गली गली में, गली गली में,
तो
इस गली में देखिएगा, फिर कैमरा पैन होगा तो इस गली देखिए
टैंकर जो था,
हाँ, पानी का गाड़ी, ये पानी देने वाला गाड़ी है।
I mean, just to, I mean, it's quite obvious. There's still a lot of people on the streets, like
Yes,
you know,
yes.
see regular people coming out, you know, talking about things and stuff like that. On 4th Kalyan, by that time the mobile internet had been of course shut down,
Yes.
and you had broadband.
Yes.
That was
in a hotel.
which was to go later, but at that day you had it. On 4th, when you stepped out, at any point did you think that maybe I should leave Churachandpur, or did you think that okay, since we are here and a lot of things are happening here, what, because we will come to that in a bit, but on 4th, what was your we had discussed that, you know, for as an editorial from our side we were like okay, continue covering what we are covering, but at that time what was going on in your mind, like what were you thinking of, like as today I'll have to cover this, I'll have to make sure that I get this, that, what, for example, just explain us what was going on during
Like
that
on 4th, when we just tried to look around and trying to figure out like what happened exactly, so we decided to stay back rather than moving out and just report what we, you know, one part of it. We tried to get to the depth of it and for
explain
that,
one issue in detail.
exactly.
So just to add to this, did you get information that it may not be safe to travel to Imphal, or that the roads had been blocked or anything like that?
That happened later in the day.
Okay.
We had spoken to a lot of locals. There were few people who were, you know, guiding us through the road, and they were also supporting us a lot. So they were telling us later in the day that it's not safe to, you know, travel from one district to another, and we were also getting reports that there has been more violence and arson,
Yeah, exactly.
arson, I would
exactly.
say, in fact, in the border areas of Churachandpur and Bishnupur. And since also our concern was that our driver is quite young,
Yeah.
and it was his first job, so he will have a lot of interesting stories to tell to his grandchildren. His first day of job, and he was stuck with us.
Yeah, and I don't want to mention his ethnicity, but it was also something that we did not want to take risk.
Exactly.
That, you know, he was not with he had not gone with us, for example, from Guwahati. So he was from Imphal, and as we said, he was just a kid who thought it would just be an easy ride, and it is an easy ride. Let's be honest.
That's what we
Imphal to
expected, in
Churachandpur
fact.
is a very smooth, easy ride. Like, you know, depending on the time of the day, it can also be very beautiful weather-wise and all. So he was not. He clearly did not sign up for this.
Yes.
And
exactly.
at EastMojo, we, as much as we care about each other, we also care about the people who work with us.
Exactly.
So we could not have taken a risk saying that okay, we are not worried about the driver. He's, when anybody who's working with us is a part of us that time. So
And
the
also
driver was also part of the team that was
Exactly.
working.
Exactly. He was a team member, and also we were also concerned about the vehicle. Any damage
Exactly.
to the vehicle
So exactly.
would have
catastrophic
exactly.
impact on us also. Like,
Yeah.
let's not lie about this. We can,
morally, financially.
mostly financially. Morally, we'll recover from a dead vehicle. We'll not recover from the bill. But that's what on 4th, as we saw, like, you know, and just to add on, by 4th, it was also becoming very clear for us that violence, as I said, violence had spread, and we were getting numerous reports.
Yeah.
Almost nothing that was verified by the government, and I will take this moment to say that the officials who otherwise are always jumping over each other to tell us we are doing this, we are doing that, at that time officials just went AWOL. Nobody was responding to our calls. We could not get any reports. Our Manipur correspondent Vangamla Sally, who was in Imphal at that time, she was calling everybody to get more information ki death toll kya hai,
Or at least confirm what is
exactly.
being
For example, you know, the fact checking machinery of the government, which that the government claims to have a fact check machinery, that absolutely went silent. We were, our reporters, the moment Kalyan left the hotel, he had no internet, and he cannot work from the hotel because he has to be on the ground. The same applied for Mukutda, he did not have any internet. People went out. The moment, see that when people talk about mobile internet shut, it's not just that. It also makes you actually immobile, right? The moment you step out, you don't have any access.
Yeah.
So you have to, everything that you record, you have to come back and then dump that and then go and do it again. In amidst all of this, the government was, maybe if the government was giving information, it was giving it to certain stakeholders. It was not being equal in its distribution of information. The only 2-3 notices we were getting were internet bans and shoot at sight order that came later in the day.
Yes.
So this was what we are understood, that at that time it became very, very difficult for us to chase stories. We could not say कि अच्छा एक आदमी ने बोला कि यहाँ पे ये हुआ है तो हम इसको भेज के पता करता है कि हुआ है कि नहीं. Second thing, and as I said, we take a lot of pride ना कि हम लोग जो न्यूज़ करेगा करेक्ट न्यूज़ करेगा. तो उसके लिए चुराचांदपुर में we had our reporters, and I think that was also the day when, I think if I'm not wrong, we were the first ones to talk about.
Since a lot of arsony had taken place night before, so we tried to get understand the intensity of the whole situation.
Exactly.
Our first move was to go to the hospital.
Of course.
To know about how many people had.
Exactly. Yes. It's on your screen right now, the Churachandpur Medical College. And Kalyan, this was also the time when not only going there, but you also looked around, asked around people, and that's how we came to know that 3 people had died.
Yes.
And I think we were one of the first, if not the first ones, to talk about, to mention about death in Churachandpur. And you had to actually go through the register, right?
Yes,
The morgue and to the register to find out who had died. And this was also editorially, from us, it was this was the only story that I could trust in terms of death, because as I said, हर जगह से खबर आ रहा है कि ये इतना मर गया उतना मर गया. So and that time when Kalyan told me that he had seen it in the register that X number of people, 3 people had died and there were a lot of injuries. And injuries, let's be honest, injuries was expected. When something like when homes after homes are burnt, you will see injuries. And as you can see on your footage, we have of course blurred the some of the faces to protect their identities. But this was the next day, and you can see the extent of violence that was caused.
In fact, there were a lot of kids as well.
Exactly. And you can see a lot of injuries, like from these are the injuries that you see in case of, like, say, fights, for example. So a lot of people were beaten up.
Yes.
You had a lot of broken heads. A lot of people had injuries on their arms. A lot of people were much worse off, as we saw broken legs, and 3 deaths.
Yes.
That was the first death news that came. Right?
Exactly.
Yes.
So, and what was even more concerning is that they had died of gunshot wounds. And
exactly. So even amidst all the fire that we saw and all the inferno-like situation, it was not the fire that killed people; it was the bullets.
So in fact, the hospital, the registers and the hospital register confirmed that they were gunshot wounds, but who fired the shots, we could not confirm any of that. The officials were not available; we could not reach out to them. All of them were
tight-lipped.
Yes, tight-lipped and had gone completely mum. So only what we could only confirm is that there has been arson and people have been injured and there has been clashes that took place. But who were the people involved in the clashes? We do not have any confirmation.
And I just add, I would like to add here that we've been getting this barrage of comments saying that, oh, this was done by this community, and when it happened somewhere else, it was done by that community. And I cannot say it in a more blunt manner. We don't care. This is not about one community versus other community. This is not about us versus them. That might be for the people, but as journalists, we cannot take sides.
Exactly.
And when we said that there were 3 people dead, we could have very well said 10 people are dead to get more views. But we said 3 people dead because Kalyan saw 3 names in the register. Kalyan saw 3 bodies in the morgue. That's why we said 3. We could, as I said, we could have said more, and probably the number will continue to rise because we still don't know of how many people who are still dead.
On any incidents of violence, anything happens, it's the common people who get affected.
And
so
it's one thing
it's
one thing to say that, okay, injuries, the level of injuries might change. Somebody was slightly injured, somebody was badly injured, somebody is critically injured. But death, you do not take back news. You know how many times we check and double check if somebody, just to say the word dead, because once you said the word dead, you can't undo it. So यहाँ पे we have to make sure that it is absolutely confirmed news. Every news that we have carried on EastMojo, and as the part of the editorial, I am proud to say this. Every news we have carried where we have said if you have given a death toll, is because we have verified it. Those numbers, when we said 3 people were dead in Churachandpur, nobody else had said so. People were just taking guesses, and I don't want to name media houses because a lot of national media houses were also doing the same thing, saying several dead, scores dead. See, several and scores changes. It can be 500, it can be 6. But we had a number, and we had a number because we were on the ground and we verified that information, and that information is not wrong because you can go to the register and morgue register and check it for yourself. Kalyan, just take me through 4th. We're just ending about talking about 4th. After the deaths and all, it became very clear that the violence had been much more than what we could see at night. Because, and let's be honest, we also get consumed by sight, right? So आग लगा हुआ देखता है तो हम लोग ये देखना नहीं करते कि पीछे उसके पीछे मारपीट हो रहा है हम लोग आग देखता है तो एज अ कैमरामैन आप देखता है अच्छा आग जल रहा है पहले इसका फुटेज लेना इसका लेने अच्छा ये देखो ये ऐसा जल रहा है सिलेंडर फट रहा है उसका आवाज ये यहाँ पे एक P2C कर दो ताकि हम लोग के पास रहेगा लेकिन उसके पीछे उसके आगे उसके बाद में उससे पहले क्या हो रहा है ये हम लोग को पता नहीं चलता
So we tried to speak to the hospital authorities but they did not want to get involved
of course
since it was a matter of communities being involved, so they remained stayed clear of commenting on anything issue. They mentioned, they gave us the numbers that of people that were affected, number of people who had died, and that was it. So, and also after we moved out of the hospital, we started noticing that people were being evacuated. Mukunda took visuals of people. There were students, in fact, a lot of students were taken out of Churachandpur
hospital.
Yes, medical college.
And this is a very new medical college. We have done several stories on this is, if I'm not wrong, it's probably the first batch or the second batch if I'm not wrong. This is a very new college. It's a very new. That's what I was getting to. Kalyan, just explain to our viewers the system of Churachandpur Medical College. How big is it? Does it have any special? Is it more of a district hospital?
It was very recently
uplifted. Got an uplift, right?
Uplift and inaugurated by Home Minister Mr. Amit Shah.
Okay.
That was very recent, and it's not as big as, of course, if anyone has seen Guwahati Medical College or the
even
AIIMS,
RIMS in Imphal or JNIMS and all.
Yes.
So it's a district hospital.
Yes.
But it's a good. And let's be honest, it's the kind of district hospitals that we have seen. It's it's one of the better ones.
Yes.
In terms of infrastructure. And thank you to the viewers who are clarifying. This was the first batch of students.
Yes.
Because Churachandpur Medical College was one of the first ones to start, and this was the promise that was made by the CM, and it was fulfilled. तो ये अभी कुछ दिन पहले ही स्टार्ट हुआ था यहाँ पे बैच, फर्स्ट बैच है. और मुकुटदा, जब आप फुटेज रिकॉर्ड कर रहा था तब हॉस्पिटल अंदर जाने से पहले आपको पता चला था कि कितना वायलेंस हुआ है, कि हॉस्पिटल के अंदर जब देखा कि सर पे पट्टी है, क्योंकि बाहर जो बैठा हुआ था उन लोग का तो चोट नहीं दिख रहा हमको उतना.
बाहर में तो जो आदमी लोग का इंजर्ड हुआ है उन लोग का आदमी था, फैमिली का आदमी था. जब मैंने ले गया हमको पूरा ले गया, हम आईसीयू में घुसा. आईसीयू में घुसने के बाद कल्याण को बाहर रुकने दिया, हम अकेले आईसीयू में गया. आईसीयू में जो घुसने के बाद देखा है जो आदमी का हालत बहुत ख़राब. एक का तो पैर में ऐसा लगा है पूरा ब्लड ही नहीं रुक रहा है, एक का माथा का पूरा निकल गया, उसका भी नहीं रुक रहा है, पूरा इधर पूरा मारा हुआ पीटा हुआ.
ये सब आपको देख के
उसके बाद देखिए, उसके बाद हम गया, एक बार लेके गया हमको जहाँ पर डेड हो रहा है, बोला 3 आदमी डेड. मैं बोला ये नहीं दिखा सकता है, इसको रिकॉर्ड नहीं करेंगे. उसका बाद दूसरा रूम पे गया तो 80 पीपल पूरा इधर उधर पड़ा हुआ है. एक बिस्तर में 2, एक बिस्तर में 3, इधर का
किसी के पास बिस्तर भी नहीं.
कोई लड़का गोली खाया है, अभी उसको ऑपरेशन करके ले गया, उसका माँ बाहर में रुक रहा है, गोली भीतर में ही है, ऐसा हालत है.
ये जब आप वायलेंस देखा था तो आपको जब देख रहा था, जैसा आप सिचुएशन बता रहे हैं, तो ये तो समझ में आ गया था कि ये हाथापाई से नहीं हुआ, हाथ से मारपीट से नहीं हुआ.
ये हाथ से नहीं हुआ,
ये मारा गया था, मतलब टारगेट किया गया था.
बेम्बो, लाठी, तरोवाल ये सब से मारा गया है.
लेके मारा, मतलब पूरा मतलब कोऑर्डिनेटेड
अटैक हुआ था. नहीं तो पैर कैसे टूट जाएगा, इतना कितना ब्लड निकलेगा. डंडा से मारने से पैर नहीं काटता है ना, पैर पूरा काट गया, इधर में काट गया तो कैसे काटा है.
ये लड़ाई करने से
नहीं होता है.
Kalyan, at this point you also realized that, as I said, we have said it time and again, that it was getting very, very serious and very, very ugly. At that time, when you were outside the hospital and when you were reporting about the deaths, were you did you have an idea that okay, now refugees will start, people
exactly.
Let's get to that now, because
the
that
moment
is something.
we stepped out of the hospital, we started.
This was what time? Can you give us a time if possible?
I think it was around 12.
12.
11,
12.
So we started early, like I mentioned. So we started early, and so by around 12 we were out of the hospital, and we saw students being evacuated. So since the matter of evacuation was already in the picture, so we thought that it might escalate. And also one of the concern was that on humanitarian grounds, and also if the situation escalates, how will the district hospital, which is already losing its staff, will manage if the situation gets worse?
Yes, exactly.
In fact, that was also one of the concerns that we mentioned in the video that we did. You can watch the video through the link in the description. And that is when we realized that there are chances, since people are being evacuated, there are chances that the situation may escalate further. So we then decided to visit some of the localities that have been burned down. We tried to record videos, but then since thankfully we were accompanied by a couple of locals there, and who guided us through the roads and took us to the areas, and we were safe. They made sure that we remained safe.
So just explain, when you say you were safe, was there any threat? What kind of, was it just people who were on the edge? Like, was it organized threat, or was it like?
Actually, they were not happy with the media.
Of course,
they did not want any media to be around, and in fact we were the only media persons, and that is also one of the reasons we decided to stay back in Churachandpur, because it is easier to confirm anything that from Imphal, but it would be close to impossible to, if we have any report from Churachandpur and we had to confirm it.
Yeah.
We being on ground could not confirm a lot of things either.
Exactly. No, that's what as I was explaining earlier, that even from the only stories that we were trying to carry were the ones it has to be either, say for example, and we are going to be very honest, if Press Trust of India does a story, if army issues a press release, if the government issues a notification, those things we will take. If my reporter, and that's why we have our reporters, right? If Kalyan Dev tells me that Amit, this has happened, I have every reason to believe him, but even then I will ask him for questions. I'll ask him, how did you do this? Where is your proof? What is your source? Is there a source, or are you there? So remember when we talked, it's like, how do you know 3 people dead? And you told me very bluntly, I'm in the morgue, there are 3 bodies, that means 3 people are dead. And I'm like, okay, so I have trust and I have proof that it is there. Will you say that you spent too much time chasing leads, or was it, how were you on the ground, how were you filtering what needs to be looked into and what possibly?
The only option we had is to see things by ourselves.
Okay.
We were not
of course.
Chasing ghosts. That has been I mean, all the rumors that were circulated on social media. So since there were reports of arson and destruction taking place, we decided to go to those locations.
Exactly. Okay.
However, it was difficult to shoot, bring out a camera. Since we are a Mojo, so we record most of our videos on mobile phones.
Exactly.
And so the moment they saw a camera, people saw a camera, they did not want to be, they expressed their discontent because they were not happy with the media, the kind of reports that were doing the rounds. There were multiple narratives that were created during these violences.
And anti certain community, of course.
Exactly.
तो मुकुट यहाँ पे आपसे पूछेगा कि आपको तो हम लोग देखा है कि आपको आपका कैमरा पसंद है, आपका बड़ा वाला कैमरा जो फुल जो प्रॉपर कैमरा है, लेकिन हम लोग मोजो है, तो हम लोग को जब जरूरत पड़ेगा तो इससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता कि मोबाइल है कि बड़ा वाला कैमरा रिकॉर्ड करना है. ये सब एरिया में जब आप जाता है और ये सब एरिया में जब आप रिकॉर्ड कर रहा, तब जैसे 2 तारीख को आप अपना बड़ा कैमरा निकाल सकता था, 3 तारीख को रैली के टाइम में आप बड़ा कैमरा निकाल सकता था, 4 तारीख को अब सिचुएशन बहुत खराब हो गया है. तो उस टाइम पे आप कैसे डिसाइड कर रहा था कि कैसे आप रिकॉर्ड कर रहा था ताकि लोग आपसे बात करें और आपसे अनकंफर्टेबल नहीं हो, चाहे वो छोटा फोन लेके चाहे बड़ा फोन कैमरा लेके, किस तरह से आप रिकॉर्ड कर रहा था कि लोगों को परेशानी ना हो?
नहीं, देखिए आजकल हो गया मोजो का हो गया, बड़ा बड़ा चैनल भी आजकल मोबाइल में ही करता है. एनडीटीवी वो देखिए मोबाइल पे करता है, सब लोग मोबाइल, क्योंकि कैमरा लेने के बाद बहुत सारे चीज़ होता है, जैसे कि हेडफोन लगाना पड़ता है, उनका बात सुनाई देगा नहीं. मोबाइल का ऐसा नहीं है, कैमरा हेडफोन लगाएगा और मोबाइल में होता है जहाँ तहाँ आप घुस सकता है फटाफट,
ऑटो फोकस भी होता है, वो सब भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, लगा के शूट करना शुरू कर दिया।
तो ये सब जो वायलेंस मूवमेंट में थोड़ा कैमरा का थोड़ा निकालो, हेडफोन लगाओ, वो करो, थोड़ा
फ्रेम बनाओ, वो सब नहीं होगा।
मोबाइल निकालो बस खींचो
तो लोग उससे कंफर्टेबल भी थोड़ा ज्यादा होता है ना, बड़ा कैमरा निकालने से लोग थोड़ा डर भी जाता है।
बोला है मीडिया वाला हम मोबाइल से क्या है, क्योंकि हमको बहुत आसान होता है इस बार, इसलिए मोबाइल में किया। कभी कभी ऐसा होता है कैमरा भी लेके जाता है।
But here the challenge was, since people were not comfortable in talking to the media, Mukunda had to go to them, establish a connection with them,
within minutes,
make them comfortable. He was there कि क्या हो गया, ये तो सब जल गया, बहुत नुकसान हुआ आप लोगों का, हम लोग देख सकते हैं। He had to make people comfortable.
Of course, and within minutes.
Yes,
you don't have a lot of time to establish a camaraderie.
Exactly.
Right?
So that is how he took all the videos. He made them comfortable. He assured that we are not biased towards anyone. We are here to report what has happened. We will stick to facts. So please cooperate with us. Please support us, and do not indulge in any kind of activity that might bring harm to anyone. So he was doing a lot. That was an additional job that we don't have to do while reporting on other issues.
आँख और कैमरा का लेंस एक ही होता है। मैं आँख में जो देखता हूँ लेंस में वही कवर किया, कोई दूसरा ऐसा नहीं है जो हम लोग फेक करेंगे। आँख में जो देखा वही तो कैमरा में घुसा है।
तो by this time it became and as we are doing more stories and all, on 5th morning, on 4th night, when we finally finished, you were done for the day, and it must have been a very long, because I remember I was in office at 9 a.m. in the morning, and by the time I reached home it was 11 p.m. So on 5th, that's when we saw the major of army moving in big time.
Yes.
Like that's where in the morning, in fact morning आपका morning का जो था वो आप record करना शुरू किया कि अब देखो अभी हो गया, record हो रहा है ये सब। तो and in fact luckily,
in fact sorry, before we move on to 5th, so yes, 4th later in the day it started because there was evacuation process underway. So a lot of people later in the afternoon, in fact a lot of people had come out on the streets. They were protesting because people from one community were stranded in different locations, and there were no reports of what will happen to them. There are relatives who are stranded outside and they could not establish connection. So all of them had gathered out on the streets. Roads were blocked. By afternoon we could not move out, and
you could not use your car.
Exactly. So we had to do most of the cover. We just walked around the streets. Thankfully there were a few locals who were accompanied us, and in the afternoon things started escalating further. There were on multiple junctions. In fact, the roads were blocked, shops were vandalized, and then there was also people protesting against the evacuation process. That is where we saw a woman from a particular community coming out to protect people from the other community from being harmed.
Yeah, that was supposed to be a human touch story.
Exactly.
And the way it was covered and the way it was shared also showed that a lot of people believed it. Yes. But it also brought out the worst amongst us.
Exactly. So we were just approaching towards that was very close to the police station. So we were
the Churachandpur police station.
Yes. In fact, right in front of Churachandpur police station. So we were approaching towards the police station, and I was hoping that we could interact with some of the women there. But since there was a mob before that, and they recognized us, and they knew that we are journalists who are reporting, but they did not have any idea of what kind of reporting we were doing, because internet had already been, mobile internet was shut down. So they did not allow us to move past that area, and so that is when situation escalated. And since we saw a woman from a particular community protecting the other community, so that is, I think our intention was there to at least, if this goes out, this will help.
Exactly.
And this will pass
and for us also from the editorial, it was like, see, and we have always said this, that violence is always, like you'll always see that the history of violence is essentially a majority men. Let's not kid around. It's always been men who has been more violent, right? And a part of it was also to show कि देखो ये औरत लोग ये वायलेंस नहीं कर रहा है, ये लोग उससे ऊपर उठ के एक साथ होने का, यूनिटी का दिखा रहा है. And let's not forget the I mean, and this video is out, so even if we name the, I don't want to name the communities because we'll be again be accused of bias. But the people they were protecting were from their own city, from their own town. So it was not like they did not know these people. These were people who were from their own cities. And that video immediately went viral, and it also, as I said, it also brought out the worst amongst human beings, because there was a lot of cynicism, a lot of anger, ki no, this is lie, this is fake news. And I don't understand how can it be fake news when we are showing you the footage.
Yes, I'm there.
You are the, I mean, we almost dropped the F word, but I mean, like, how are we supposed to do fake news by being on the ground, and you expect us to, like, you know, you think we have so much money that we will do like VFS or something like that and create this. It was there, and it was there for all of us to see. And that was probably, even now it's one of the few like outrightly positive videos that we have got, right? Like, so when all of this was getting to, you know, towards the end of the day, you had also realized that now there is a humanitarian crisis. It's not just कि 10 लोग का घर जला दिया है, 5 लोग को हॉस्पिटल में 80 लोग चोट लगा है. अब ये समझ में आया कि गांव का गांव खाली हो रहा है. अगले दिन 5 तारीख को जब आर्मी आया, तो आर्मी आने से आप लोग को क्या एक्सपेक्टेशन था, और दूसरा कि उस टाइम आर्मी का सवेरे सवेरे का आप एक फोटो कि किसी तरह से आप लोग का एक का मोबाइल थोड़ा देर और चल गया. नहीं, लेकिन वो
5 तारीख आई थिंक वी वोक अप टू गनशॉट्स. साउंड्स ऑफ गनशॉट.
सुबह हम लोग होटल में जब था तब करीब 7-8 बज रहा था, तो हम लोग नया कुछ स्टोरी के लिए डिसाइड कर रहा था. दोनों आज का डेवलपमेंट क्या स्टोरी निकलेगा. उसके बाद सुनाई दिया खाली फायरिंग डूम. अब ये तो हम लोग सोचा कि निकल के आएगा, लेकिन हम लोग का कपड़ा उपड़ा इतना पूरा तैयार नहीं हुआ था, जस्ट उठा ही था. तो हम लोग खिड़की से और ग्लास का जो एवरा से शॉट लिया. उसका बाद हम भागते भागते ऊपर में गया, चलो ले लेते हैं
रूफटॉप ऑफ द होटल दैट वी वर स्टेइंग इन.
गया तब तो फुटेज लिया था, तो आर्मी हम लोग को पहचाना नहीं, सोचा कि लोकल यहाँ का ही है, क्योंकि ऊपर से उसको दिखाई नहीं दिया जो हम लोग को मीडिया वाले है. तो आर्मी ने डंडा दिखा के हमको ऐसे बोला, बंद करो सब बंद करो. तो हम लोग बंद कर दिया. इसका बाद आर्मी गाय से कमांडेंट ऑफिसर ने PRO से बात किया, कल्याण. बात करने के बाद बोला है जो आप लोग कहाँ पर है, पूरा हम लोग ये होटल पे है, नाम उम लिया. उसका बाद फ़ोन किया, तो इसने बोला बोलो आर्मी के साथ हम लोग जाएंगे, तैयार हो जाओ. हम लोग तैयार हो गया. होने का बाद हम जब रेडी हो गया, उसका बाद बोला आर्मी से फ़ोन आया, बोले नहीं आया नहीं आया. उसका बाद एक टाइम पे आर्मी का फ़ोन कल्याण के पास आया. उसका बाद कल्याण ही बताएगा आपको क्या हुआ.
So since with the army being, and that these are the actually that is when additional forces had already reached Churachandpur, and they were patrolling the town, Lamka town. In fact, they were going to different lanes, make sure that since a curfew was imposed, and they had shoot at sight order.
Yes, exactly. That, by that time, just reminding the viewers, the language was very. We are pleased to announce that was the language that was used in the. You may have not seen the notice, but the language was, we are pleased to announce shoot at sight orders. So the word pleased to announce is not really followed by shoot at sight, but that was the press release. So by that time there were shoot at sight orders. In extreme circumstances, of course, but there were shoot and sight orders, just remind.
So yes, so since with the deployment of the army, we thought that now the situation may get turned peaceful. Since there were shoot and sight orders, we thought that no one would venture out. People will stay back at their homes, and we just wanted to get a ground report or first-hand experience of what is the situation on the roads. So we got in touch with the army. We accompanied them in during one of the patrol sessions, and at the same time, the army was also rescuing people from different pockets
of Churachandpur.
Of Churachandpur. That is when, in fact, if we can have the visuals. So these are the first visuals that we took from the rooftop of our hotel. That is around 7 a.m.
हमको भगा रहा है. देखिए ऊपर में देखिए.
In fact, you will see one of them pointing towards us.
Point कर रहे हैं हमको.
They were just firing blanks back then. So, and just making sure that the roads are empty. They were also clearing the roads because everything that was burned down on the middle of the road, it made
And
movement of
just to
vehicles
remind,
impossible.
this is Stadium Road.
Yes,
So this is the
Stadium
main road, the,
Yes,
the arterial
yes,
road of
yes,
Churachandpur,
yes,
right?
yes. So this was at 7 a.m. So after that, we got in touch with the army official. So here the visuals shook because the army had noticed us and they asked not to stop recording. So and these are the visuals when we started accompanying them.
Yes,
Later in the
exactly.
day, we went to the mini secretariat. We got in touch with the army. They asked us to come, go down to the mini secretariat, and we saw a lot of army officials coming in, large convoys of army army coming in, and so
These are the armored vehicles, right?
yes,
Yeah,
and
ordnance
they were
vehicles,
also
right.
moving around the district to rescue people.
By this time, civilian movement had completely come to an
Yes,
end, right? There is
exactly.
no civilians on the streets.
No,
anymore.
no, not.
ये देखिए
nothing.
बीच में पूरा लकड़ी मोटा वाला लकड़ी पड़ा हुआ है। ये देखिए कैसे करके जा रहा है, सब जगह में बांध रास्ता
और पूरा काला है
पूरा।
ना?
हाँ पूरा
अच्छा,
रोड।
ये just wanted to know one thing. Had it also rained?
नहीं
Yes,
नहीं
it rained a bit in the night before, but it was
Because
sorry. Before we accompanied the convoy, it was drizzles. It rained for around half an hour, and yeah. So
ये रोड को
after
खाली किया गया है। पहले ब्लॉक था, ये रोड को खाली किया
ये तो
गया।
ब्लॉक के
हाँ,
सारा
ब्लॉक है
दिख रहा
ना,
है।
तो एक वहाँ पर एक्सकेवेटर गया, थोड़ा साइड कर करके आर्मी लोग का रास्ता निकाल दिया।
वो जेसीबी था।
हाँ जेसीबी, अब जा
हाँ,
नहीं
जैसा
सकता
बना,
है।
हाँ, जैसा बनाया वो
हाँ
बस गाड़ी
देखिए,
निकालने
हाँ,
के लिए।
1 मीटर का पहले ये आग रोड में, अब जा नहीं सकता है। तो ये एक गाड़ी था, वो आके सफा किया।
like before we went to the army base, on our way we had to get down of our vehicles.
ये देखिए
to
बीच में
clear the
गाड़ी,
road.
मारुति गाड़ी, देखिए।
So
So,
during this patrol, they were also evacuating people from a particular community from different pockets. So yes,
ऐसा लग रहा है कोई वार में जा रहा है आर्मी लोग।
So, between this and the fateful night that we'll come to in a bit, what was the most important events that you were seeing during the day play out? Apart from the large scale movement of people into shelter camps and stuff like that. Because by this time shelter camps had been set up,
Yes,
right? And
yes,
they had moved to, if I'm not wrong, first they were in the DC office, right? And then they were being moved to the mini secretariat.
no, the DC office
There
is
is
in the mini secretariat.
Okay, so
So
DC
there are-
office is part of the mini secretariat.
Yes, yes.
Okay, apologies.
So yes, while at the DC office, we also interacted with a lot of people who were at the shelter camps, and they were agitated because they did not have enough food supplies. They had to cook their own food. Drinking water was another concern.
So, yeah, in fact, that's what I wanted to ask you. Amongst all this, where were you getting your water and food from?
Our hotel had enough supplies.
Okay, okay, thank God. Okay. So you, so basically at that time, so by say by 5th afternoon, how many people do you think were in the shelter? Like, because the number increased in the coming days.
Yes, yes.
But on the 5th itself, how many people?
So
were
on
you
the
seeing?
5th, when we were there, it was around 4,000, and more people were brought in.
4,000 on 5th itself.
Yes.
Okay, that's a big number.
And more people were brought in, and we saw 3, I think, 4-story buildings.
ये देखिए एक नया स्तरीय दर्जा में लिखा हुआ है वो लोग का, हम लोग ये दुकान है, उसे पोस्टर लगा जाएगा एक दुकान में,
ताकि उसका दुकान नहीं जले।
हाँ हाँ नहीं जलाए,
अच्छा।
उसके लिए वो लोग पोस्टर लगाया एक
Yes, so yes, exactly. One interesting thing that we noticed during the patrol is that shops had, flags, I could say, not flags per se, but
Markers. Some kind of
Gamusa,
marker.
markers, yes.
Some kind of marker to
Yeah.
identify
and
that we are from
and
a
something
particular-
written in the local dialect.
Okay.
We could not understand what it meant, and here it was just me, Mukunda, and our driver. That's all.
So you were
There
following in the car.
Yes, we were in the middle of the convoy,
Okay.
and there was no local with us who could clarify what's written there. So
Okay. Okay. So from here on. And let's be honest, on the 5th evening, even we had done a story that situation was returning to normal.
yes,
Right?
exactly. So yes, after the so many
the first few hours of the army seemed like control was back.
exactly, and since people were evacuated, and we started getting reports. Also, we spoke to some of the army officials that similar things are also being done in other districts as well.
Exactly. In fact, we had
People
done a story. Yeah, exactly.
People
exactly.
from other locality, other districts were also evacuated and taken back to the camps. However, unofficially we were told that there were no, right now the orders they had was to evacuate them from the localities and bring them to the camps, not move them to other districts.
So, and
But that
Yeah.
way at least they'll be safe in case any kind of violence breaks out. But here we were a bit relaxed because we saw a lot of movement and there was no movement of any human being on the streets, and we thought that situation will come
Get
back to
under
normal, and probably after a couple of days shops will start opening up.
maybe even next step. probably.
Exactly.
So that brings us to the night of 5th.
That brings us, I think, before that, yes, to the night of 5th. Yes.
That's the night when. So yeah, I know the story by heart because I was one of the first ones to get a call
Exactly.
from you, and it was one of the most distress calls I've had in my life because you guys were there. But Kalyan, it was 8:30.
Yes.
So let's start from 8:30 p.m.
So we were at a friend's place near our hotel. He had invited us for dinner. We had gone down there. We were just talking to the family members, hoping that the situation would, since we had an idea that situation will get back to normal shortly.
That
So-
was what it was indicated throughout the day.
Yes.
That it was limping back
Exactly.
to normalcy.
So we were just talking to them. We had our dinner. They had prepared a very nice dinner, local food, and then we started talking. That's all. And after a point, we went to the rooftop just to see the view from his home, what the areas look like. On the rooftop, while on the rooftop, we heard two different sounds. First were gunshots that were being fired at a fair like quite a bit distance, not very close to us. So we understood that those were probably the army convoy that was doing the rounds across the streets. So that was one. Secondly, another interesting sound that we heard was iron being hit. So if you hit say the sound that you hear when
जो
you
लाइट
hit
का पोस्ट होता है ना,
an electric post,
tung,
tung,
हाँ,
tung,
हाँ,
yeah. So that's another sound we started hearing. Our friend immediately told us that we should move out and it's not safe to stay out because situation might escalate. That sound indicates that things may turn. It's an emergency situation. That's an alert actually to stay safe.
गाड़ी वहीं पे रख दिया क्योंकि गाड़ी बाहर निकालने का माना है, बोला गाड़ी मत निकालिए,
So
गाड़ी वहीं पर
our
छोड़
friends,
दो.
he suggested us to keep the vehicle at his home, and he suggested that we walk back to our hotel.
So just one thing, and this I forgot to ask you when you were there. How far was the house from the hotel?
Well, it was probably half a kilometer.
So it's not like next door.
No, not
So
next door
amid-
exactly.
Half kilometer?
Amid hearing bullets.
Less
you
than
were,
half a kilometer. I mean,
amid hearing bullets and all, you were
exactly.
walking
So
on the
while
street.
we were walking, the bullet sounds were getting closer, and also the iron sound, it was also
Getting
getting
louder.
and also faster. So
the frequency was
increasing.
Yeah.
So that indicated. So our friend asked us to we should rush back. We should start walking fast, and a lot of people had his friends had gathered around us, and by the time we reached Terim Road, we saw a large group of people, probably around 100.
বেছি হ'ব.
Yes, and
বেছি মানে কিমান মোটামুটি
100 तो এটা জুনতে 100 মান আছিল, আকৌ ইফালৰ পৰা আহি इधर से बीच में तो देखा ऊपर से हमरा 100 ऐसा है, पीछे से भी आ रहा था कि अंधेरा था, दिखा नहीं दिया ना,
but अंदाजा
लेकिन
था,
था,
लोग
काफी था.
so yes, so by the time we reached Terim Road, there were there around more than 100 people gathered there, and the frequency of the sound, iron sound, was getting louder. It was much faster, and also the gunshot sounds was very close. I mean, we could see the army approaching towards this way. So our friend shouted and asked the hotel guys to open the gate, and he told us that we should run back to the hotel and close the gate as soon as we move inside. So we ran inside the hotel. So as soon as we moved in, our eyes started burning, and there was a very I felt some kind of irritation. I could smell that tear gas. Yeah. So I asked Mukut had he, without waiting for anyone, he went to the rooftop to get a clearer picture of how many people had gathered there, what could be the situation like, to get a much clearer picture of the whole situation. I, on the other hand, was asking people around me, so what had happened? Why do I smell tear gas here? So the hotel guy said that they had fired tear gas around, not in front of the hotel, but nearby. So that is what happened. So I also followed Mukunda and went upstairs. And
upstairs, as in you were not in your room, you were on the roof.
Yes, we went to the Mukunda directly went to the roof. I looked for since I could not find him, I did not know where he went. So I called him twice. Probably he did not could not hear the phone ringing. He did not answer. That I got worried.
Of course.
So since he was not behind me, so I went to the roof to check out whether he is there or not.
Thankfully, he was there.
Yes, thankfully he was there. He was recording videos of the fire. It was back to what the situation was like
so
the previous night.
This आप ये record कर रहा
हाँ
था.
हाँ ये आग लग रहा है पूरा ना.
ये आपका right hand इस तरफ से.
हाँ इस तरफ से right hand में था.
सब कुछ.
ये
right hand मतलब इस तरफ.
So this is the road towards.
ये right hand में ये army. ये जो आ रहा है ये सब आर्मी है. राइट हैंड में इधर से आएगा अभी. अभी मेरा लेफ्ट हैंड पे ये लोग है. ये राइट पे वो लोग आर्मी है.
और the mini secretariat is towards this.
Yes.
हाँ हाँ हाँ.
So behind them is the
road
towards mini secretariat. So yes, from there we saw a group of women forming the human chain, and I clearly remember the one wearing the orange T-shirt.
Was it orange or red?
Orange.
Orange.
Yes. So yeah, they formed a human chain and started approaching towards the army, because since the army has been evacuating people and taking them to the camps. So they started approaching towards the army and tried to stop them from taking people, evacuating the people, since their people had not arrived from other districts, and the numbers are in thousands.
Yeah, sure.
That is when we hear the intensity of gunshots getting louder, and more number of gunshots were fired.
So just one thing, Kalyan, I apologize to our viewers if it sounds inconsiderate. Was it at this time that the bullets started being targeted at people, or until, because from what I hear from you, until then shots were being fired, but it was not towards anybody, right?
So yes, this is when they started getting closer to the army, they fired. I think we should take the video down. This is very disturbing. If we can remove the video, please. So yes, so yes, this is when the intensity of gunshots increased. So before they started approaching towards the army, they were firing blanks. They were firing in the air.
In the air. Okay.
Yes, but when they saw people approaching towards them, they fired towards them. But it was dark. The army were at quite a bit distance, so they could not figure out whether, I'm just assuming here, they probably could not figure out whether they were men or women.
Also, do you think the army had an idea of how many people were approaching them?
I think they could see shadows,
but there's no way you could get a number. Right?
Exactly, no, there's no way you could get a number from that distance. They were probably 200 to 300 meters away. So that is when gunshots were fired, and we saw 5 people being hit. 2 of them fell right on the middle of the road. 2 of them were brought inside our hotel, and 1 of them was on the other side of the road, right in front of on the opposite lane. Within minutes, an ambulance came and first took the person who was on the other side of the road and took him or her, we could not confirm which one, whether it was a male or female, took the person to the district hospital. Then another vehicle came. Sorry, before that, the two who were on the middle of the road, they were dragged, picked up in fact, and brought towards inside our hotel. From there, one of the people from the hotel took all of them to the hospital in his own car, and
none of them survived.
one survived, one was still alive, and yeah, within half an hour I get a call from the hospital that 4 of them had died and one was in critical condition. So yeah, but then the standoff did not end there.
Yeah.
The standoff continued. A lot of people were still there on the road, not allowing the army to move, and those who were evacuated from the different areas, they were not allowed to take them to the camp, and we were there. I mean, after the firing took place, we were still at the rooftop, and we saw 2 women approaching towards the army. We were concerned, like, what are they doing? But then we saw, and like, the army did not fire. They spoke to the army officials and probably had a negotiation that they are all civilians and they are all unarmed. None of them were armed.
Yes, because a lot of people, and again, what this violence has also shown is that it has brought out the worst amongst us.
Exactly.
As human beings. So I mean, some of us should not even be called human beings, but the lot of people is like, oh, they were carrying guns, and there was a lot of violence, and these were militants, these were not civilians. But and again, I'll go with what you said. You did not see all the people that were marching, and we can see here the people who were marching, they were just holding each other's hands.
Exactly.
We don't see any weapon. And let us also be clear, if anybody had a weapon and 4 लोग को गोली लग जाएगा, तो अगर मेरे पास बंदूक होगा तो मैं कुछ तो चलाएगा, हवा में गोली चलाएगा, लेकिन कुछ तो चलाएगा. इस साइड से तो आपको कोई गोली सुनाई नहीं दी.
नहीं, nothing at all.
इधर से तो कुछ भी नहीं चला. और उन लोग का मरने के बाद भी गोली नहीं चला.
पूरा शांति.
तो ये कहना तो थोड़ा गलत होगा कि इन लोग के पास बंदूक था या ये लोग मिलिटेंट था. ये लोग तो सिविलियन था. एंड एज वी लर्न द नेक्स्ट डे that one of the persons who had died was nurse at the district hospital.
The one who breathed her last on the middle of the street was the nurse. 33-year-old, and she was now by next day morning she was now termed the first martyr of the whole incident that took place. So yes. So I think that is when we decided to move out. I think since there was no internet, broadband services were also shut down. Mobile internet was not working. In fact, I think networks were also jammed because I could not make phone calls. So we were basically sitting ducks. All the things were happening. Yes. Before that, I think that is when after we got the confirmed reports of them being dead, that is when I called you.
Yeah.
So
and at that time, as one of the members of the editorial team, I had a lot of the demand or the urge to स्टोरी निकाल देता. अभी निकाल दिया तो क्या चलेगा स्टोरी. अभी तो क्योंकि उस टाइम पे तो ये न्यूज़ फोन पे भी होने से भी किसी के पास कंफर्मेशन तो था नहीं. हम ही लोग था जो वहाँ पे ग्राउंड पे था, और हम लोग तो वो रिकॉर्ड किया जो लोकल जर्नलिस्ट के पास
जो आंख में देखा था वही तो रिकॉर्ड हुआ.
और वो तो
हम लोग तो वहाँ पर जाला वाला नहीं कर सकते ना.
और हम लोग तो उस टाइम पे ये भी हालत नहीं था कि हॉस्पिटल जा सके. वी कुड नॉट इवन गो टू द हॉस्पिटल, राइट. तो एट दैट टाइम, and I remember very clearly, and this is just to inform our readers that as professionals I had to actually record Kalyan's call, because I was taking him to, in our parlance, what we call on the record. So we had to make sure that I had all the information. I had to grill him. I had to grill my own colleague to make sure he's giving all the information. How much was the distance? Could they see? Was the bullets fired as because there is a difference between bullets being मतलब गोली चला देना और गोली मार देना. तो दिस वाज नॉट कि एक एक को चुन के मारा है, ये गोली चला दिया, उसमें जिसको लग गया वो मर गया. तो ये सब इंफॉर्मेशन लेके एट दैट टाइम maybe if I was TRP hungry, I would have released the news right and right there, but we did not, because one, we did not know how the situation was going to unfold. Maybe if we had released that information, knows that God knows what would have happened in other camps where
Yeah.
there are other communities also. We had to think about everything. Of course, the safety of my colleagues was very important for us. I did not want any harm to them, and by that time I think we had also decided that since we did not have internet and there's
Yes.
only so much memory we can dump, because let us not forget all these files are very big in size. So even if you're carrying a 2 TB hard disk, it gets over.
Yes.
We joke that when we make a documentary, we record 2 TB and it releases 2 MB, 200 MB. So at that time there was only so much space we had to dump, and it was not like we could go to a shop और एक memory card खरीद लिया या Amazon को phone कर दिया आ जाएगा. Though वो सब तो होना नहीं था, and anything we were recording we could not release because there was no internet anywhere. So this may have some readers may have said कि you should have released this news earlier, but in keeping in mind the safety of other people also, but I'm not gonna lie, for me my priority is my own colleagues. So just to make sure that they are safe, कि रात को कोई प्रॉब्लम ना हो उनको, क्योंकि उस टाइम पे तो आप लोग गाड़ी होने के एक तो गाड़ी आप लोग के पास था नहीं, क्योंकि गाड़ी आधा किलोमीटर दूर है. हाँ, वो तो दोस्त के घर में था गाड़ी. तो आप ऐसा भी नहीं कि हॉस्पिटल से निकल के गाड़ी लेके दूसरा तरफ भाग जाएगा.
कैसे भागेगा?
हाँ, जा भी नहीं सकता, कोई जाने भी
पूरा
नहीं देगा,
आगे आगे रोड पे.
आगे. तो we calculated and we decided at that time, I took the decision at that time, and I also told my other members of the editorial, and I told Kalyan also that we will not release the story tonight. Let the news play out. Let's see what happens. Maybe there is more violence, maybe there is no further escalation of violence, and thankfully, I mean, it's unfortunate that 4 people had to pass away before better sense prevailed and the violence was curtailed. But it was only after they started moving out of Churachandpur that I felt okay, I'm safe enough. And let's be honest, that news, by the time I released it, some other media houses already released, because they did not have a stake. We had a stake. So I released the news only after you guys had stepped out of Churachandpur. Which brings me to the final part of this segment, but a more pressing question that has been told to us, ki, oh, you have been like, oh, the entire coverage of EastMojo has been so biased, it has only shown one side, you have only reported from Churachandpur. That, let me just add that if you want to read our response, we issued an editorial today, and I'm glad that people have taken to it very positively, and that editorial is available on our website eastmojo.com.
And
but
the link to the editorial is also in the description section, so you can,
if you want to read our response, now let us we will together we will try to explain why. As see, if you've seen the first half of the video, you also know why we were in Churachandpur. I don't think we need to repeat that all over again. We were in Churachandpur because we had identified the issue much before all other people, and consequently we were ahead. So if you look at the media coverage, a lot of media coverage began on May 3rd afternoon, and especially May 4th and May 5th. We were there before, and that is why when the rallies took place, EastMojo was one of the first national medias to do stories. But we were at that time, as we said during the start of the video, it was very clear that we had gone to Churachandpur because we were working on long form. We were not there to chase violence. Secondly, it became very clear, and this is I thank Kalyan for pointing this out. For everybody who is saying that we are pro Churachandpur or we were pro Kuki, I don't know why we would prefer one community over other. Just to make it clear, we love everybody's food, so we have no problem. But saying that we were covering only Churachandpur, we can also consequently argue that we were the only ones who were covering Churachandpur.
yes.
In the entire time that you were there, Kalyan, did you see a single media house from other place come to Churachandpur?
No,
and
they
do
were
any kind of
us
story?
and the local reporters, that's all.
So, for if somebody is to say that why were you covering only Churachandpur, I could very well ask why is every other channel only covering Imphal?
Exactly.
Right? That is one simple question. Secondly, if you do follow our channel, and if you take your blinkers off of a certain community, any community, we are not going to name communities, you will also see that if you call us pro Kuki, then you will also see that it was very clear that as and when possible and verified, we were releasing news that also showed the other side. For example, we were one of the first ones to interview the Meitei ST committee, the general secretary. There was no internet, so we had to do a phone in. We recorded the phone call with the permission of the person. Once we had that call, we uploaded that video, and our own audience has watched that extensively. When we received footages from Imphal, we released that. we only release footage that we were absolutely sure were from Imphal.
Exactly.
If that means I am late and if I am not as fast as anybody else, I would rather be 2 days late than to be absolutely false. Secondly, the idea that we were covering only one community does not make sense. We were in a region and as has become very clear, it was nigh on impossible for people to travel from one district to the other. मुकुट दा, इस दौरान क्या बिष्णुपुर भी जाना संभव था? इम्फाल तो दूर का बात।
नहीं, क्योंकि हम लोग को खबर आया था बिष्णुपुर और चूड़ाचांदपुर बीच में जो बॉर्डर ये है उसमें से ही ज्यादा वायलेंस हुआ है। तो हम लोग कैसे आएंगे इम्फाल?
देन
अब बताइए।
हाँ, अब दूसरा बात, the other thing that needs to be pointed out, I don't know why people suggested this because you would never do such a thing. Some readers and some well-wishers have asked us, oh, why did you not ask army for support? Listen, I don't believe I have to say this. Army had better things to do.
Exactly.
Army had to protect lives, and I am not trying to be pro-army or pro-establishment, but army has been called in with a certain reason and for a certain purpose. We are not VIPs. We will never act like VIPs.
They
and they are
have
not
more
there
important duties to
exactly, and they are not there to escort journalists from point A to B, so that some people sitting somewhere can get the story they want to see. There was no way in hell we would have asked army for this.
And yes, army has been already been helpful enough to us.
Exactly.
They
in the area that we were working, they helped us
Exactly.
in the ways. And see, at that time, that also does not mean that we shied away from doing our responsibility. We said that the army shot dead 4 people. We are not saying that, oh, we are not sure where the bullets came from. We had the footage. The moment we got a chance, we also released the footage. We are not here to do anybody's bidding, but we also should not lie. The army was not there to support us. They were not there to protect us. And by us, I mean my teammates. They were there to protect civilians, and they were there to do the duty that has been given to them. At that time, asking army for something as selfish as, oh, excuse me, could you please help us go to Imphal, that I know that my editor-chief will never allow that.
Then in fact the army people, they in fact told us, if there is any problem, if you have any problem, contact us, call us. They gave us numbers. There were multiple people who were on duty of the army who told us, and that they will provide all the support, everything that we need. He told Mukutda as well. He was multiple times, if you need anything, call us. We will be there. But morally, it was, I mean, this is not something we
exactly, and that's not, I mean, let's be honest, would you want, will our readers want that we take help from army to that, or you can drop us there? They have, as I said, they have better
and that's
things to
unfair.
do.
We are also civilians.
Exactly. Why should we get any more protection than anybody else?
Exactly.
Right? Like, we were doing our job, but that is what we have chosen as careers. We are doing what we have always wanted to do, as tell you stories from the ground. One more thing that I would like to add is that we were not, this argument that we were pro something or the other is not possible, because in that area we covered almost everybody possible.
Exactly.
We to date, and maybe I am wrong, but to date we remained probably the only, at least till yesterday and certainly until May 7th, we were the only ones who had a ground report, not stories, not claims, not X person said or Y person or some national media sitting in Delhi that, oh, I spoke with somebody on the phone who told me this is that. No. Meiteis of Churachandpur, it's a sizable community. We were the only ones who did a ground report. We were the only ones who went to them, we spoke to them, and when you listen to them, they are not blaming their fellow neighbors, they are not blaming the people they share the city with, they are blaming authorities, they are blaming the police, they are blaming politicians. But this story, we said, because if we had to be biased, we could have completely ignored the Meitei, so-called, if I were to go with the argument that we are pro-Kuki, why will we do a story on the Meiteis of Churachandpur? But we did it. The thing is, we did it the way it was supposed to be. We did not take false claims, we did not put narratives. People had the reason, they are speaking to you on the mic. None of them are saying that, oh, this person killed me, that person killed me, nothing that happened. They said that there were tensions, a lot of outsiders were also involved, a lot of other external factors were involved, that is no denying. But these are people, these are Meiteis who they are not the ones who work in Churachandpur, they live in Churachandpur, they are Churachandpur residents. They have always called Churachandpur home. And we did that story, and we did it with the utmost sincerity that was possible, and we did it and we gave it the respect it deserves. Even today, no other media house has been managed. That's what I am asking. The reason why we could not travel from Churachandpur to Imphal is the same reason that you did not see national media channels coming to Churachandpur. It
When
was
we were
not
there.
yeah, while we were there. Now maybe that's what the situation has changed today. For example, we have got reports that today has been the most peaceful in terms of like there's no fresh death reports coming, no new vandalization reports are coming. Apparently, a lot of shelter camps have been, the
Yes,
number is
exactly.
reduced. That we cannot. These are the government numbers. We cannot vouch for them. That's the government saying that the number has come down. There have been 216 FIRs. Almost 300 arms have been recovered. Over 4,000 ammunition have been recovered. These are the current situation. But today we are talking on May 9th. We are talking about what had happened until May 6th. At that time, it was absolutely impossible to move about, and the cost of moving about was not worth the risk. And the cost of moving about was not worth the risk of asking army men to do our
Exactly.
bidding. Kalyan, sorry, but go ahead. I mean, I may have gone over.
No, it's okay. I mean, yes. So that's our side of the story, and the story that we saw on the ground, the story that deserved to be told. Our focus was to restore, at least help in restoring peace, bring out the concerns of the people. The focus when we went to the camps, spoke to the Meiteis living in Churachandpur, from Churachandpur, they were helpless, they were agitated, they were running out of food, there was a lack of drinking water, they wanted to go back home, they wanted to, even although they were safe, but they were clamped up in, I mean, hundreds of people clamped up in one room. And so everyone, see, no matter what happens, everyone wants, at the end of the day, everyone wants to be at home. So and they wanted the violence to end. So that is the kind of message they had, and we feel actually proud to be able to deliver that to the people. And I hope that this helps in restoring peace. And also in the days to come, we will focus on restoring peace. Our job will be focusing to help the people who are affected. I've been saying this while we were interacting with the people, because repeatedly, because it is the common people who get affected the most.
Exactly.
It will the common people who are at the receiving end. It is the common people who suffer. So it is also upon us to maintain peace. So all we can do is stick to facts, and that is what we did. We stayed on ground, focused on the facts and what we saw with our own eyes. That's all. And if we are being tagged as certain names, we don't care.
No, because the thing is, our work has speaks for itself. As I said, like we were not pro anybody. We were in one place, and we thought that instead of सब जगह इसके पीछे भागेगा, उसके पीछे भागेगा, वो करने से अच्छा जो देख रहा है, जो हमको दिख रहा है, जो हम सबूत, देखो आप ही तो सिखाया है ना कि जो हम लोग रिकॉर्ड वो करेगा जो बाद में हम बता सके। हाँ। अगर हम वो रिकॉर्ड ही नहीं करेगा तो हम बाद में कैसे बताएगा? तो आपके पास जो, अगर आप बोल रहा था कि 50,000 लोग आया, तो आपके पास वीडियो है दिखाने के लिए। जब हम लोग स्टार्टिंग में बोला कि दो तारीख को सब कुछ नॉर्मल था, तो हम दिखाया कि देखो कितना नॉर्मल था, बाजार खुला हुआ था, लोग सामान खरीद रहा है। जब हम 4 तारीख को दिखाया कि ह्यूमन चेन बना है, तो वो हम लोग दिखाया। जब हम लोग दिखाया कि घर जला है, सिलेंडर फट रहा है, तो हम लोग दिखाया उसको। जब हम बोला कि आर्मी का गोली से 4 लोग मरा, तो हम लोग वो दिखाया है। जब हम लोग बोला कि कैंप में हालत कितना बुरा है, तब हम लोग वो दिखाया। जो हम लोग नहीं दिखाया है, वो आप दूसरा लोग से देख लो। दिस इज ऑल्सो, आई थिंक देयर इज ऑल्सो दिस वियर्ड ऑब्सेशन विद, आई डोंट नो, कांट कॉल इट ऑडियंस बिकॉज देयर इज ओनली विद सम पीपल, कि तुम ही सब कुछ दिखा दो। अरे तुम शर्ट एक दुकान से खरीदता है, दूसरा दुकान से भी तो खरीदता है ना। तुम एक चैनल देख रहा है, हम अगर चूराचांदपुर दिखा रहा है, आप कोई और चैनल देखो, आपको इम्फाल का दिखेगा कहानी। उसके बाद आप डिसाइड करो सच क्या है, गलत क्या है। हम लोग जो दिखा रहा है वो हम लोग प्रूफ कर रहा है, कोई और दिखा रहा है, वो देखो कि वो प्रूफ कर रहा है। हाँ। और वैसे भी जब इतना सारा चीज होता है, जो स्टेट में 35 लाख लोग हैं, और अगर उसका मान लो 10 लाख लोगों के बीच में प्रॉब्लम चल रहा है, तो अचानक से हम ही 2 आदमी मिलके कैसे सब कुछ दिखा सकते? इससे अच्छा जो जहाँ पे हम लोग, और हम लोग जो बोला कि हम लोग जब चूराचांदपुर में था तो कोई और आया नहीं, और बाकी लोग जो इम्फाल में था वो लोग कहीं गया नहीं, तो हो गया ना।
हम लोग देखिए, हम लोग चूराचांदपुर पे दिखाया, लेकिन वो लोग तो आकर तो चूराचांदपुर नहीं दिखा सकता है ना।
नहीं दिखा सकता।
दिखाया क्या? नहीं दिखाया ना।
Today I can and I'll end on this. Had it not been for EastMojo, we don't know what stories of Churachandpur might have emerged.
Exactly.
and we don't know how much of it would we have believed ourselves. If somebody had told us, if we had not been there and told us that army bullets killed 4 people, some of us would have been absolutely true, some of us would have like no chance, this is not happening. But today we can say so because we saw it. And had it not been for, and I'm ending on this note, had it not been for EastMojo, a huge part of this violence would have absolutely gone under the radar. It would have been reduced to WhatsApp forwards, it would have been reduced to unverified reports, it would have been used to mudsling at one community versus the other, it would have been used to antagonize one against each other, which is what this violence has been doing. So I'll end, and I'm ending the stream on this. All the links that we have mentioned over here are available in the description. Please visit eastmojo.com. You will see all the stories that we have done. On our YouTube channel, you will see all the reports that we Kalyan and Mukunda have brought to us so courageously. We'll also be making a separate playlist in the coming days for Manipur videos, so that
yes. And we are not just like what we have been accused of over social media. We are not just talking about one community here. We are speaking to all. If you see interviews coming in of representatives or academicians or from one community, we are also trying to make sure we also speak to the other communities.
Exactly. In a bit, you will be seeing a live, voice from the Kuki academicians that we had interviewed a few days ago. And before somebody jumps, oh, what about Meitei voices? We understand that. As I said, we are not looking at specifically from A or B. We are trying to explain the issue. In this case, it so happened to be that the people that we have interviewed are from the Kuki community. We are also interviewing, the process is on. Kalyan and Mukunda have just arrived. We are in the process of interviewing Meitei academicians and intelligentsia who are in Guwahati, because it's a lot easier to interview in Guwahati than to depend on phone signals, and while we don't have internet. The moment those interviews are done, I am reliably told that there is one interview scheduled for tomorrow.
Yes.
So the moment that interview is done, that will also come out. And again, it's not about giving more space to Kuki voices or giving more space to Meitei voices. We just want everybody to understand that there is a lot more to violence than what meets the eye, and we hope that the upcoming interview with the Kuki academicians answers some of your queries. Maybe you have more questions, please let us know. If you have those questions, we will also post them to them in a follow up if possible, and tomorrow we will be interviewing some people from the Meitei community who live in Guwahati. They will also be presenting a story that may not, that their explanations and their ideas and thoughts may not be to your liking, and may not assuage the idea that, oh, this is not Meitei enough. But please understand that we are not getting into this. We are just trying to bring more honest information and give more talking points for people to discuss, because only talking will bring this forward. Thank you for watching, and please remain on the live stream, because now the interview with Kuki academics that we did a few days ago, and my colleague Rana Saikia interviewed them in this studio, that follows next. Thank you, and please, as I said, please remain on the live session. The live interviews follows now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When you try to invade the other territories, there is always a chaos or a fight.
We could see that the tribal communities, particularly the Kukis, Jomis, Mars, Paites, and various others who have been settling in the Imphal Valley, have their localities, villages, houses are being vandalized, vehicles are being burned, churches are being burned. While declaring or trying to engage in proclaiming this many of these areas as reserve forest or protective forest, there are a lot of procedural lapse in terms of identifying that some areas being under the reserve forest.
So are you alleging a conspiracy to frame some people?
In some way, because this is what I have seen in the media, the videos are going viral. I think the state should really step in. They need to have the political will to bring or try to bring the normalcy in terms of their basic livelihood first, the security.
Hello and welcome to EastMojo. Today I have two guests with me. To my right, I have Mr. Wi-Fi. He is a professor at the Downtown University in Guwahati. And to my left, I have Mr. Namjao. He is a professor at IIT in Guwahati. So, Manipur is burning. There has been unrest and chaos on the streets of the northeast Indian states for close to 4-5 days now, and internet connectivity has been shut down. So I am with my guest today, and today we'll try to understand why such a situation has been witnessed in Manipur. So first of all, welcome to both of you. It's a real pleasure to have you here.
Hi, just as everything managed to go smoothly, it seems we have had some kind of a technical problem. Our software is not being a software, and things that are way beyond my understanding are happening. We will try to patch up at the earliest. We are ending the live stream right now, and we will run the interview as soon as possible. There's been some yeah, we'll run the interview anyways. We're planning to run the interview separately, but we'll do that. But right now we'll have to end our live stream because there's been some technical issues, and we cannot take feed, so we can only talk live from the studio right now. So apologies for that. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll upload the interview as soon as possible.